This podcast was brought to you by Dragon Shield. Check out the affiliate link down below to help support the show.
Welcome back to the Play to Win podcast, where we talk about winning in cEDH. I'm Cam.
I'm Dylan.
And this week, we are going to actually be doing topics from a hat. This is a nice quality hat you can get from playtowinmtg.com/bonfire, or however the fuck you get to it.
Well, yeah, you get it at Bonfire, but you can get to Bonfire through our website.
Through the website. That's the best way to get there. Yeah. I'd show you the logo better, but there's a ton of scenes jingling around in this hat.
Yeah, we have a couple different topics we're talking about today. Some from Patreon, some just little things that we want to talk about. We're just going to bang them all out.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to get started. The first thing that I pulled out of this hat.
Yeah.
On my invisible scroll here, it says, what are the best cards from Commander Masters in cEDH?
Great way to structure that sentence, first of all.
Yes, by repeating three of the words halfway through.
Really so everyone can really hear what you're saying.
But we're making sure we know the topic.
Yeah, we wanted to originally do a whole podcast on Commander Masters, but honestly, there's just not enough to talk about. We could talk about the cool reprints, but they don't really add anything to cEDH or the meta, which is stuff that I would like to talk about.
Just new art.
There's just new art and more accessible ways to find them. Hopefully, it brings down the prices overall. But there are a couple cards that we can talk about.
Yeah, there are a couple new cards I wanted to focus on. We're going to talk about Gruff Rewrites History first. I'm not sold this one is going to...
Is this a dog? For some, I feel like Gruff should be a name of a dog.
Gruff is a dog,
yes.
It is a dog. And Rewrites History is the name of the book about the dog.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, it's a children's book featuring the lovable Gruff.
I feel like some of this isn't true.
None of it is true.
Okay. What actually is this card? Because I don't know. I've never seen this.
You've never seen this?
No, can you give it to me?
I'm excited.
Yeah, let me hear it for the first time.
This is 2 and a red for an instant. For each player, choose target non-enchantment, non-land permanent that player controls. Those permanents' owners shuffle them into their libraries. Each player who controlled one of those permanents exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. Then puts the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. Each player may cast the non-land card they exiled without paying its mana cost. So this does a lot of different things.
Yeah.
This is a combination of Wild Magic Surge and Chaos Warp, but it multiplies it for every player.
Including yourself?
Including yourself, for each player.
At first, it kind of reads like it might be a polymorph effect, but it's really not, because it doesn't, if you get rid of a creature, it doesn't go until you hit another creature. So you can't guarantee you get a Tidespot Tyrant out of this. You just go until you hit a non-land, right?
Another non-land. Yeah, another non-land card. Now, you can't choose an enchantment to flip to get rid of and flip into something else, but you can flip into an enchantment and then get that.
Yeah, what are the actual things you can hit again?
So you can target any non-enchantment, non-land permanent.
Oh, it specifically says non-enchantment.
I don't know why it just doesn't say artifacts. Okay, I guess then it would have to say artifacts, creatures, planeswalkers, and battles.
Yeah.
Now there's battles, so it's
they're
easier to say
for the future if they make another card type too.
Good point.
Yeah.
And then the other part is that you can go get a non-land card. So any instant or sorcery counts as something you can go get too.
Which means if they flip into a counterspell, they can't really do anything because there will be nothing on the stack for it to target.
That's true. I'd like your verbiage there too. Flip instead of get. I said get. I like you saying flip, because
flip.
Get implies a tutor.
Yeah, it's not exactly. A tutor. It's a reveal until you hit. To me, that's a flip.
Yes, you can cascade into something.
This card's, it's 4 mana. That, to me, first off, that shouts...
It's 3 mana.
It's 3. I thought you said 4.
No,
interesting.
It's 2 and a red for an instant.
2 and 1 red.
Yeah, all those things do kind of sound pretty interesting.
At 3 mana, this is worth considering, I think.
Here's the problem with Wild Magic Surge, is that you always hope that you don't flip into something that's worse for you.
Yeah.
So you do have to make sure that you target something very specific. What I don't like about this card is that it amplifies the chances of something going wrong for 2 other players now, too.
Yes, that's true.
However, you're dealing with so many permanents that it's bound to still be better for you after this has gone off.
Since the types of things that you can flip into are so varied, it kind of also increases the chance that they hit a dud off of the top of their library, but they're going to hit something. They're going to hit a spell. And I don't know. It's rough, man. There's like you said, like you can hit 3 different player stacks pieces and think you're good to go, and then what if you hit 3 bigger things? You can make it all worse.
Another stacks piece comes into play.
Yeah, I've played Wild Magic Surge. I've gotten completely blown out by it because I flip into something even worse. It really only this type of effect I think is only good at like stopping a combo because no matter what they get, as long as they don't have an underworld breach, who cares if they have something else? They're not winning the game. Whereas if getting rid of stacks pieces, this type of effect I don't love for that. And 1 from each permanent, to me, that's a removal spell that you want to get rid of a couple of different stacks pieces, not stop a combo. So for that reason, I don't know if I pick this a lot.
I don't know if I would pick this over Wild Magic Surge. The being cheaper on Wild Magic Surge and having less of a chance to screw me over definitely incentivizes me to go in that direction here.
I agree.
However, I also get to target something on my side and then flip into something else too. So it's not like I'm not getting any value off of this.
That's true. You could hit something like a Mana Dork that you don't need anymore or something and get like a Ristic. Yeah, there are things that you can benefit off of this.
I don't like that it doesn't hit Underworld Breach though. Like normally you want something like this to be able to deal with the Underworld Breach combos.
Yeah, I think, overall, this one's not going to be a pick, but in certain mono red decks and low color decks, if you're copying this, maybe this is something that Kraken Sakashima wants and just like completely disrupts the board at all times.
That could be really interesting.
I don't know. I feel like every red or blue spell that does something silly, Kraken Sakashima probably could use. Is it best? I don't know. Yeah, but maybe.
Like we said, there's not really a lot of cards that are in the set that piqued my interest for cEDH, but that one just has a lot of interesting words on it that made me go,
huh. We don't really have something quite like this. Not something that hits multiple permanents like that.
Not at this rate, no.
Yeah, not at 3 mana, so yeah, it's interesting.
Let's talk about Skittering Cicada next.
Yes, give it to me. Is this a bug?
It's an insect, creature insect. Yeah, it's 3 mana, and it has flash, and it's a 2/2.
3 mana, flash, 2/2. What color?
No color.
No color.
It's just 3 mana for a colorless creature insect.
3 generic mana.
3 generic mana.
Is it an artifact?
No, it's just a creature.
Okay,
yes.
Continue, sorry.
You may cast colorless spells as though they had flash. And whenever you cast a colorless spell until end of turn, this cicada gains trample and gets +X/+X, where X is the spell's mana value.
Interesting. So I feel like that last part is not what we're looking at in cEDH, but this is another impression of Shimmermere.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Zur on the podcast last week, I think, probably. Zur getting another way to find that Shimmermere effect, that way to get a whole bunch of artifacts in play and win in the end step after you necro for a lot. It's pretty interesting. I like that Zur gets another one. I already think that Zur is a little bit underrated. Maybe this is another piece of the puzzle that pushes it to get to a little closer to tier 1. I don't know. What do you think with this one?
I definitely agree. I think there is a tipping point, though, where you don't want to play too many of this effect, because then you're just diluting your deck with other stuff that you need.
That's true.
You only need to find one of these flashers. You don't need to. Oh, I don't like calling them that.
Yeah, flasher seems like something in a parking lot. Let's not call them that.
You only need one of these
creatures with flash, things that give stuff flash.
That's a really unfortunate name. I can't think of anything else now when I hear that word.
What would be better than just they're flash enablers. Flash enablers.
That's giving people the ability to flash. That's even worse.
Okay.
Creatures that allow you to cast things at instant speed.
Yeah, a nice, long, safe way to say that.
Yes. I think there is definitely a tipping point where you don't want to play too many of them because now your deck sucks.
Yeah, I agree. But I don't know if we're at that point yet.
Probably honestly. Not.
I think
4 is probably where you want to be. I would say probably either between 3 or 4, because ideally you're drawing a third of your deck.
Right.
So if you have one of them in each third of your deck, you can't go wrong.
If you have 40, great math, number 1. If you have 4 of them and you're drawing 30 cards, say out of the Necro, but say you've already seen like 10 cards out of your deck, what's 4 out of 40? That's 10? Is that 10%?
That's 1 out of 10, yeah.
Or is that 100%?
No, 4 out of 40.
4 out of 40 is 10%.
Yeah, you divide it, and then it's 1 out of 10, which I'm pretty sure is 10%. Low. Yeah, that is 10%. Yeah,
that seems really low.
Wait, is that your math on that you would
out
find
of 40
this?
cards, and there's 4 of this card in your deck? But no, that's not the math at all, because the math is there's 4 out of 100, and then I shouldn't have even started. I shouldn't have even started trying to.
That's
talk
the thing,
about
right?
math.
There's 4 out of 100, and then when you look at 40 of those cards, you have a.
We should call Tyler.
It's not a 10% chance, but I don't know how else to explain what it is.
We'll ask Tyler. We'll put a little. We'll figure it out. This card is good, maybe in Shimmermere. outside of that, not playable at all, one would say.
Exactly. And that will end the Commander Masters cards for cEDH portion.
That's
of
all we
the
have.
podcast.
There's a lot of, not a lot of, but there's a couple other cards that I think are great for casual Commander, big, flashy commanders.
Yeah. If you like sagas and if you like planeswalkers
and colorless stuff
and slivers,
there's a lot of great stuff for that. I'm not positive much of that will make its way into cEDH. Some of the colorless stuff did seem interesting to me. Maybe it goes in, what's it called? It's not Urza's Battlethopter. It's Battlethopter
Liberator.
It's Liberator Urza's Battlethopter.
Yeah.
Some of them maybe go in that, but probably not.
I would hope. I was hoping I was talking to a couple of friends of mine about this. I was kind of hoping that there'd be more like removal, like more interaction options from colorless, but I get why they don't want that outside of a massive colorless Wrath.
Yeah.
Is because you don't want to give every single deck access to a 2-mana deal 4 damage spell.
I think they could have done some removals that require the colorless pips, though. That
some
kind
more
of
like
helps with
spatial
that.
contortion kind of deal, because that's the only card that does something like that.
Yeah, we didn't get much like that in those Commander products, did we? Though I didn't see anything.
No, but if you want to cascade a couple times,
Many times.
yeah, you can do that instead.
Okay.
But I don't think that's going to come close to the.
I don't really want to do that.
No,
in cEDH.
I was kind of hoping that maybe there would be some stuff that would like push either, like you said, Liberator or like the big Kozilek.
Yeah.
The one that draws.
I mean, maybe there will.
They all draw cards.
Yeah, eventually we'll get to a point where there's just enough colorless stuff where you can overvalue the table. I don't know if we're there yet, but it doesn't seem like it to me. Maybe someone else will figure out how to do it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But that's basically the first topic. So I'm going to reach into our hat and pick another topic.
Let's go to the next topic.
Okay. It just says MTG accessibility.
Okay.
All right, well, I guess we're just going to take this and run with it.
All right.
Because I know I've heard a lot about there being some grumblings about like how expensive this set is in particular. Reprint value from more expensive precons not being, what players are looking for, which I can't blame them. If you're going to bump up the price, it's hard to say, hey, I'm also going to lower the reprint value that's going to come from it too.
Yeah, it sucks. I feel like in one breath, Wizards is trying to say Magic is for everybody. We want everyone involved. But if your products are $70, a lot of people can't afford that. That's like, you know what I mean? Like that makes it, your message is kind of confusing. You're saying one thing and doing another thing. I feel like that's kind of frustrating to a lot of players, especially players who have been in it for a while. And we saw when Commander decks were like $30 or something, like we've watched them inch up over time, and then we've watched Hasbro say this is the most money we've ever made. You know what I mean? We've smashed all our records, and like, yeah, but like we're doing that.
It's our own fault.
Right?
We keep
yeah,
buying
we keep buying
them that they keep coming out with. But if they're gonna keep printing good cards, I'm gonna keep buying them.
Yeah.
But that's why I kind of like the whole proxy thing, and that's one of my favorite parts about cEDH in general is just the availability of being okay to proxy cards.
Yeah. And I don't get me wrong, I love owning Magic cards. Like I do, like I give in. I love, as for my decks, I love collecting over time, but there's no need to spend all that money on a deck right away. You know what I mean? You always proxy first, and then you just fill in the cards as you go. You pick them up as you move along, and you buy them at your own speed that you feel comfortable with, not when you feel pressure to, because Wizard says, ding, 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 time to buy. You know what I mean? Like, don't.
Every 3 months or every 2 months or something
every
like
month
that.
there's a new set. I feel like literally the moment that spoilers stop, the next Monday there is a new spoiler season right away. There's always product coming out every single month.
As we're talking about these Commander Masters cards, we already have seen some cards from the new Eldraine set that I'm not going to talk about now because we'll save that for the set review. But like, it's just perpetually sets that are coming out, and this is normally not something that we talk about too much, but
honestly for us it's a good thing, specifically because we're content creators.
For me and you,
you and I,
beautiful.
Cameron and Dylan, it actually works out. There's always shit for us to talk about. There's always cards for us to make decks on. There's always stuff for us to do. But for your common Magic player, I understand how it can definitely feel super overwhelming.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just got to end up focusing on what you can focus on, right? Proxy what you can end up being able to pick up. Certainly pick up what you can, I would recommend. But that's, again, it's just new art to proxy. That's what these reprint sets are.
And I don't know if it's just like an old man yelling at how the people are doing things nowadays of me. That was a weird way of me to say. I don't know if I'm just like old and I'm nostalgic for how things used to be. But when we were in Innistrad for a full year, when we were returning to Ravnica for a full year, doing a bunch of sets, I felt like immersed in those sets. I remember those times of my lives because my lives, like I'm a cat, I have many. I remember those times of my life because like that was a full year. I was 26. I remember what was going on. I was 22. I remember what was going on. But when the sets are so rapid fire where they come out every other month, they don't really hold any lasting meaning. I don't remember what my life was going on when that set came on because there was a set a month before it and a month after it, and there was no separation between them.
Like you could, I got my heart broken when Magic Origins came out, and like you have all these things that like you can pinpoint to because of how long those sets were. But now like you can't sit there and go like, oh well,
there's no nostalgia for those.
There's
sets.
no nostalgia for them. Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just because again, the nostalgia that I have for the game is from
when we started,
which is 12, almost 13 years ago at this point now.
God.
But I know, fucking Christ. But like I'm sure that like nostalgia is going to look different for people that are starting the game much later than we did.
Your favorite set is always the first set that you played. It's always the first set that you played
with, right? And you'll always remember that. And I think that just because we also have had 12 years of additional sets that have come out since we started playing. So it's just more and more and more shit that we have to remember.
Yeah.
And at some point, the more shit that gets crammed into the front of my brain, the more stuff comes out. And it's always like, when my bills are due, like
we're losing important information for the new Lord of the Rings Magic cards.
Family birthdays, shit like that flies out of my head.
This is why we don't remember how to pronounce the cards. Because if I remember how to pronounce one thing, that's a family birthday I forgot.
Yes, exactly. Some things I have to sacrifice.
Right.
Room for. Yeah. But this kind of also brings us to the reserve list, and we actually got a topic from Stormageddon that I just pulled out of the hat here too.
Right.
This is a very important prop that we're using.
It's a magical hat. The one that you get at bonfire.com is also magical.
Yes. Mine turned a snowman to life.
Stormageddon being our $100 patron that submitted a topic for us to talk about in the podcast as part of their pick your perk.
You pick the perk.
You pick the perk. Right.
Yes,
it's our own system. Then.
Yeah.
I can't even remember the name. Okay.
They were thinking about the reserve list and how the reserve list impacts competitive EDH too. And I thought this kind of goes hand in hand with accessibility as well, because the reserve list is known for housing most of Magic's most expensive cards in the game.
Especially for like cEDH. I feel like all the duels, the guys, Kratos, a lot of the all of the expensive cards are on the reserve list. Besides reserve list,
I have a list.
Basically everything else I think is like under $100. Like,
yeah. So for those who might not know, the reserve list is a list of cards that were printed towards the beginning of Magic's life, where Wizards of the Coast has basically verbally agreed that they will not reprint any of these cards because of collector values.
Right.
Which is a stupid thought, because like a bunch of these cards aren't worth jack shit. So who gives one about what some of these prices are? But
at the time, I think a lot of players were upset when Revised came out and all of their dual lands that they thought would be worth $50 forever got, reprinted, and now they were only worth $30 or something. I mean, I wasn't there, so this is just hearsay.
No, it's just a bunch of gatekeepers in the 90s who didn't like that everyone else had access to their cards.
But that was when the cards were worth like $50 to $100 to $200, not when they're worth $10, $20, $30, $40, $100,000. Like, times are different.
We lived in the now, and we don't care what things are like in the future.
Yeah, I think it's kind of unfortunate. I think they should be able to reprint all of these cards, and they get around it sometimes. They did it from the vault with Mox Diamond, which is on the reserve list years ago.
Get around is a way to phrase that, because nobody was happy. There were very many angry people that were very upset when that was printed. And now that version's even more expensive than the original Mox Diamond because of it.
Which is interesting, because like people were afraid that reprinting would drive down prices, but like they're a collectible company with years of experience, and they've seen a whole bunch of other collectible companies do stuff. Like, they know how to reprint shit while keeping your old shit it's valued. You know what I mean? Like, an Alpha Black Lotus is always going to be worth $1 billion, whether you print that card or not. I mean, if at a certain point, if you reprint it, but they're not going to do that. They're going to reprint it in ways that can give you an option to buy the cheaper Black Lotus, but still keep the other one expensive.
I think this is the perfect example of this. Let's talk about Imperial Seal. Now, this is not a reserve list card, but this was a card that was famously too expensive.
$500
for being a worse Vampiric Tutor. That's ridiculous that it's so much. So they reprint it last year in Double Masters 2022. Currently, I'm looking at TCG Player. There's 170 listings as low as $63.70 for the Double Masters versions.
Nice.
The Portal 3 Kingdoms version has 21 listings as low as, which means the second I click on it, that number is going to skyrocket, as low as $944.99.
So that one actually went up. The one that people were collecting went up. Because I remember it being $500 and saying that's out of my price range. marriage. I can't buy an Imperial Seal, but you can get one for $60 now.
Exactly.
Like that.
This is the perfect scenario.
Like that's what would happen with a lot of the older cards. The same fucking thing.
Yeah, and I know this is one card, and this was a great cherry-picked example made by me.
Yeah,
right?
and we are not MTG Finance. We don't know what
Not
the fuck we're
at
talking
all.
about. This is just what we're guessing based on Magic.
In fact, I've lost a ton of money on Magic, so
Big time.
I'm not giving out any advice. I'm just saying what it seems like should be factual evidence for why we should be getting more reprints.
And don't talk to me about small sample size because I don't know what those words mean. This is proof.
What's a small sample size?
I don't know. Let's move on.
This is massive. Yeah. Yeah, so basically, I think a lot of these cards are definitely worth reprinting for the mass and for the longevity of the game. But another thing that kind of fixes this issue with the reserve list is proxying.
Proxying. That's true.
Again,
Yeah.
it's not about your wallet. I don't care about your wallet. I want to play against your wallet. I want to play against you.
I want to play with powerful cards.
That's also a very important aspect. I don't want to lower my deck's power level because I can't afford a Time Twister.
Right.
Let's just print Time Twisters.
I completely agree.
If Wizards isn't going to do it, god damn it, I'm going to do it.
But I think part of Stormageddon's question was, what if we didn't just proxy these cards? What if we removed them from Commander as another way to deal with the reserve list? What if we just kind of pseudo-banned all the reserve list cards from Commander? How would that change the format?
How would it change the format? I'm not saying this is what we should do to the format.
Just how
but
would-
this is a good
theoretically.
thought experiment
Just
now.
use our brains a little bit and think about what would change if we just banned all the reserve list cards.
So the first thing that comes to my mind is all 10 of the dual lands are on the reserve list.
Yeah, I think that will probably not be as big a deal as it initially
It
seems.
sounds bad.
It sounds
yeah.
bad, but I think between Shocklands, 5-color lands, and a lot of the other fixers, most decks will be fine. I think some decks, like the 5-color Turbo Ad Nauseam decks, they might suffer a little bit. Maybe Najeela suffers a little bit.
Yeah.
The 5-color, low to the ground, need to be able to fetch quickly, don't want to sacrifice 2 to 4 to 6 extra life throughout the game. It might matter a little bit for those, but not in a huge way. It's if you ban these 5 lands, Najeela is still going to be a great deck. It'll just lose a little percentage.
Well, they'll lose. The more colors you're in, the more you'll lose.
Definitely.
Because when you had the ability to play all 10 duels and shocks, now you're just down to all 10 shocks, and you are playing a lot worse lands at that point then.
Yeah.
To kind of make up for some of the other difference. But
Yeah,
I see what you mean. The life thing is the biggest aspect.
I think that's the big
have
issue.
I'm not gonna have problems casting my spells, but I will have a lot more life total issues, and I will have a lot more lands that deal me 1 damage when I tap them too.
Not only are you going to be relying more on the shock lands, but also that means that your secondary lands might be pain lands more often.
the
They might
canopy
be,
lands even, stuff like that.
So,
yeah.
and it's not going to be a ton. It's just a couple of extra life, but it will add up. And for a deck who's really using its life as a resource, like Ad Nauseam decks, I think that'll make a little difference.
Chains of Mephistopheles is another card that's on the reserve list.
Yeah, a fucking awesome card, but I don't think it'll make a big difference in cEDH if it gets banned.
I think it lowers the stability of non-white but black stacks decks, because this is a very important card in a lot of those decks.
Yeah, I
but
guess.
those decks aren't very good to begin with, so it's not really going to do too much for you anyway.
Nath would miss it a lot for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but besides that, not a big deal.
Let's talk about some of the heavier hitters that we miss out on now. Cradle, Gaia's Cradle.
This one's huge.
This is a big one. Yeah, green decks just completely get so much worse now.
I think we just talked about Gaia's Cradle in our Utility Lands podcast. We rated it as one of the strongest lands in the format, which it definitely is. It can be part of a combo piece. It can help you get a ton of extra mana. It can feed Thrasios activations. It does a whole bunch of stuff. Without it, I definitely think green decks would lose a little bit of power.
You also lose Lion's Eye Diamond, so the whole Underworld Breach combo thing,
That's a huge one.
that's not going to work out for you anymore. You can Lotus Petal, but like that's so much worse.
It's
And
definitely more difficult. Yeah, Lion's Eye Diamond, missing Lion's Eye Diamond is huge. That one is a surprisingly powerful and I think necessary tool for a lot of Storm decks.
yeah, I definitely agree.
Next card.
Another diamond, the Mox Diamond.
Mox Diamond. This one's also huge. This is one of the core 4 artifacts, like the
Core 4.
core 4, one of the main artifacts that's in every cEDH deck, basically. Every deck is going to want to play Mox Diamond, so every single deck misses out on this. The entire format slows down by a little bit without Mox Diamond, for sure.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, this is one of the best ways to be able to help power out your commanders much quicker. So it really slows the whole format down without this.
Yeah, I agree. Especially 2-mana commanders really suffer from this the most, Thrasios and stuff like that.
Your good wheels, you would also lose out on. Your Time Twister and Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, these ones, Time Twister is great because it can be a win condition, although that line is not used quite as much anymore once you have infinite mana and yada yada. But Wheel of Fortune also can be used as a win condition with Underworld Breach and stuff like that. It shuts down. It really mainly affects Opus Thief strategies, which aren't quite as prevalent anymore. Wheel strategies they're not quite as good when Flash Hulk isn't around as something that you want to kind of disrupt the hand so aggressively.
Orcish Bowmaster, I think, also does make you want to play more wheels, helps you incentivize to go in that direction now that that's an option for you too. But if we didn't have the reserve list, you'd be stuck with Windfall and Winds of Change, and that's what you'd have to deal with.
And Windfall can be great, but it can also be kind of lame.
Sometimes it's only going to draw you 5 cards.
Right.
Sometimes it's going to draw you 13 cards.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
But yeah, so it definitely, this is another hit to Storm strategies. A lot of what's in this reserve list, I think, are going to be hit at Storm strategies because at the time, the creatures on this list, they just weren't very good. You know what I mean? They didn't make it this far into Magic, but some of the artifacts and the fast mana and the stuff like that did make it. And like
honestly, there's only 2 creatures that I noticed from the reserve list that actually do things. 3. One of them is Academy Rector,
right?
Which goes and gets you the Protean Hulk, or
it gets you an enchantment.
Survival of the Fittest.
It gets you ways to get the Protean Hulk.
It's neither of those cards that I said.
No,
it's 4 mana and has the stupid fish horse fucking thing. Pattern of Rebirth.
There you go.
You get Pattern of Rebirth, which gets you the Hulk.
It slows down Hulk lines. Hulk is kind of dead at this point, so that doesn't do a ton. Although Hulk can still be very good. I don't mean like Hulk is not a great strategy. It's just a lot has been taken from Hulk.
This is really only being seen in like the Minx decks that are out there.
The Naya versions, yeah.
And that's pretty much exclusively it.
They would be bummed to see this card go for sure.
Definitely, yeah. Baron Master Wizard is the second creature that's on the list here.
Honestly, anything that stops Dockside a little bit is fine with me. I think I'm okay with this one being gone. Honestly, I just to reiterate, I don't want any of these cards banned, but anything that slows down Dockside, it's definitely just Dockside's the strongest card.
No one's going to notice it. Like, except for the non-green decks that want to combo with Dockside, like, you're not going to notice it. And even then, play Lord Dracus, Chain of Vapor with it. And
that's too many cards.
Well, you don't have access to this, so you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, sure, fair.
And then the last creature is Dwarven Armorer, which only sees play in Magda.
Oh. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
But I noticed there was a Magda Dwarf that was on the list, and I was like, haha, that's kind of funny. Yeah. Everything else I have on this list is like for specific decks. Like, it's not going to see widespread play, but there's going to be decks that are going to get worse. I guess that's not necessarily true because there's Yawgmoth's Will on this list too, but that one was already usurped by Underworld Breach.
Yeah, a couple decks still play it. Non-red decks still play it. But it getting banned definitely it makes Underworld Breach better, probably somehow.
Yeah, there's no Survival of the Fittest if there's no reserve list.
Yeah, that's another one, another Kiki pile, another Naya card that's a lot of Naya decks really heavily rely on.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It's a shame that like a lot of the things that are losing options are things that we don't need to be worse.
Yes, yeah, that's true. I feel like Lion's Eye Diamond, Mox Diamond are things that we like need to be worse.
But that shuts down the whole format more.
Yeah, that's true.
Mox Diamond specifically. Yeah, Mox Diamond specifically. Losing that shuts down the whole format more, where I think nobody benefits off that.
Yeah.
Null Rod is also on this list. There's already 2 Null Rods that people are playing. One of them they're playing more than Null Rod.
Yeah.
So it's not the biggest loss, but it's also sad.
Yeah, I agree. I like Collect Jewel a lot more in a lot of strategies, but yeah, this one would also suck for things like Blood Pod and stack strategies. They can rely on this a lot,
and it makes Dockside better now that you don't have Null Rod in the format then too. Intuition, the ability to set up
this is huge.
Wins immediately.
I think this would hurt.
Wouldn't be around.
Yeah, this would hurt Blue Farm quite a lot. Actually, I think that deck over time becomes more of an Intuition deck than it becomes an Ad Nauseam deck. Really,
honestly, pick a Jeskai deck, and it's kind of the same way.
Exactly. Yeah, this is like a core win condition for one of the best lines in the format. Intuition, getting Lion's Eye Diamond, Underworld Breach, Sevin's Reclamation, being able to, with enough cards in your graveyard, win the game from there.
Yeah.
Losing that would definitely change the format quite a lot.
The only other mana rock that's on this list is Grim Monolith, which isn't seen play in every single deck, but there's a lot of Crom decks and like commander decks that do have bigger commanders like Tivit and stuff that do want that extra burst of 3 generic mana.
I would say ad nauseum decks, this hurts the most.
Definitely.
The ones that just need every little bit of extra mana, losing any of that can be pretty devastating.
And again, then everything else that, is on here is like very specific decks. Like Gitrog loses Squandered Resources. There's normal transmute artifacts for your mono blue or 2-color artifact decks. There's no Tabernacle of Pindrel Veil, which probably makes a lot of people happy. There's no Nether Void, another black stacks piece that gets taken out of the format then too. So what happens then when we don't have Earthcraft and Corpse Dance and Bazaar of Baghdad? Like, where are we going to without these cards?
Really, from what it seems like a lot of fringe decks would lose a lot of important pieces.
Yeah, luckily Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation
Loses
would
nothing.
not be hit if we ban all the reserve list
Lion's Eye
cards.
Diamond is normally important in that strategy. So is Mox Diamond, so is Grim Monolith. But the core strategy still is there. Intuition getting lost out of the 4-color piles is a stinker. But outside of that, Grixis lives on, Wheel of Fortune too. That's not even true. There are a lot of things that kind of affect all sides of the format, to be honest.
I think green takes one of the biggest hits here out of everything because I think the Grixis color combination has enough that it doesn't necessarily need all of these pieces, but just having access to most of what they currently has allows them to stay relatively similar in the format and still be able to be based around Thoracle and Demonic Consultation, but you get to replace a dumb card like Brain Freeze with something better for you then maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Green loses its most powerful things. It loses Gaia's Cradle and Survival of the Fittest. Survival of the Fittest might not be its most powerful thing, but certainly
it helps set up one of its most powerful
win
conditions.
Yeah. So I would say, green loses the most. I completely agree with what you're saying. Although all the colors lost a little bit, green is already the lowest power level color, I think, in cEDH right now, and it losing 2 of its strongest things means it would take the biggest hit if this happened.
While we're on the subject, what other colors do you think are taking the biggest hits here? I'm kind of thinking that black might be next, because taking a look at this, like Yawgmoth's Will is here, technically Squandered Resources, those 2 stacks pieces we talked about in Nether Void. So I think there's some decent stuff that's there.
Fringe black strategies
too.
Yeah, fringe black strategies definitely lost a little bit, but I think the main black strategies, you still get to keep all your tutors and your rituals.
Yeah, that's true.
You keep your strength of the color. Red, Wheel of Fortune, that's one of your strengths of red, I think. So losing that really sucks. Gaia's Cradle and Survival of the Fittest, those are your strengths of green. Losing that really sucks. For blue, I wouldn't really call Time Twister a strength of blue. It's an option that blue has, but it's not one of its strengths. It's not like you're losing free counter spells or draw power or anything like that. For white, did we even talk about any white cards?
We talked about Rector. The only the 2 other ones that drew my attention were Abeyance, just because it's a mono-white silence that sometimes mono-white decks play, but it doesn't really see it play outside of that. And then I said Academy Rector, Humility.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's another fringe card, though. That's not one of white's strengths, although maybe it should be.
The decks that run Humility use it as a linchpin of their deck. So there are a couple, like the Tevish Ishai Man decks typically wouldn't be as good.
That's true. I totally agree. Yeah. But those decks, I would say, are pretty fringe-ish.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. They're not the most popular because they all want to play creatures too, so it's hard to nullify all of them.
That's the strength that their Wizards is pushing for white recently is in creatures, so losing those really sucks.
But with green currently being the weakest color in cEDH, losing out on the reserve list would just make green even worse. So you would, I think, end up pushing more into these non-green color combinations, even though you lose out on Intuition and some of your other good combo pieces. Although losing out on Intuition and LED just makes me go, I don't even want to focus on Underworld Breach anymore. Like, I think I would turn my attention to completely different avenues to combo with Thassa's Oracle and stuff like that.
I wonder if we lose things like Mox Diamond and Grim Monolith and things that speed up the format, I wonder if green does secretly get better, because if the whole format slows down by half a turn, that means that Mana Dorks can once again be fast enough, because right now I think a lot of times Mana Dorks are kind of too slow. You have to waste 1 mana, they do nothing, and then you have to wait to untap. at least the 2-mana artifacts, you can use them right away. So if the whole format slows down by half a turn, that means maybe green, its resources are good enough to make it powerful again. I'm not sure.
As long as you're not trying to win with Earthcraft or Alurin, you certainly
survival the fittest or Gaia's Cradle. Yeah.
Which is a shame. Like, these are some of the best things you can be doing in this color combination.
And we did just enter an Orcish Bowmaster world, so relying on Mana Dorks isn't something I'm super eager on doing right now.
Yeah, me neither. What else do you think would be more powerful if we lost out on the reserve list?
I don't know. It's hard to say. So many things would change. I feel like it's really difficult to say. I mean, it seems like most strategies lose a decent amount. Off the top of my head, it doesn't seem like Tivit loses much, and Tivit's already arguably one of the best commanders. Tivit probably gets pretty strong. Rogsai, I feel like loses a decent amount. Rogsai losing Mox Diamond and Lion's Eye Diamond and Wheel of Fortune and Time Twister is kind of a stinker.
Those are all big things, especially when those decks have been pushing much more into the wheel strategies.
Right. So I think things like Tivit get really good. I think Tivit also benefits off of Null Rod being not there. Yeah, I think Tivit probably would benefit the most out of this theoretical ban that I don't think should actually happen.
Well, that's why it shouldn't happen, is because it's going to make Tivit even better.
A commander that we hate.
Yeah, and we just can't have that. We spent so many episodes talking about how we don't hate any commanders and we don't hate any decks, and then we do one episode.
It's not that I hate playing against Tivit. I like playing against it. I'm just confused as to why it's good.
It shouldn't be this good.
That's why I'm mad. I don't hate the card. I think the card, I mean, it's fine to play against.
Yeah.
I feel like I beat it pretty regularly. I'm just confused as to why everyone else is losing to it all the time.
Why no one else can. Yeah, that is funny. I didn't want to talk about like any of the cards that are banned in Commander, like Recall and Black Lotus, because there's no point really. Although that is the other thing that really heavily weighs the reserve list, is the fact that the Power 9 is on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the rest of the reserve list is just like a bunch of cards that were good in Standard in the 90s when the game first came out.
Or stuff like Shivan Dragon. It's just... that's just
right?
powerful because it's expensive because it's iconic is all.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff that's on here, man. Thank God we can't reprint Demonic Attorney and all these Annie cards, man.
Yeah. What a bummer.
What a shit that would be, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what I think about what the format would look like without the reserve list cards.
To be honest, I like the way the format looks right now.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want it to change in any way. Yeah, don't change. I love you the way that you are.
I love Commander and I love cEDH.
Why would I want it to change?
Nothing should change ever.
Honestly, dude, everything should remain the same all the time.
Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us directly, you can do that on Patreon, like our $100 patrons.
SoulCal, Acura, Stormageddon, Cool Bean Man, Luke Cook, Young Mox, AJ Alwasabi, Demon of Rosgrees, Kawaja A. Kamid, Lauren Connell, and Baby G-Bus. Hey, Baby G-Bus, congratulations on your engagement, by the way.
If you want to pick up any of our merch, you can do that at playtowinmtg.com.
What do I say now? Big shout out to Dragon Shield. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Make sure you use our affiliate link down below to pick up your products.
Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content.
Thank you for watching, listening, and supporting.
See you next time.
The $50 patrons: Kadanis, Lutri's dad, Stashes, Mitchell Shepard, Justin, Man Solo, Nikola Marikovic, Steven Shalikti, A Big TP15, Pedro, Jacob Depp, Michael Ballou, Jan Wildfang, Thomas Bueno, Swampy McGee, David Nelson, and Jormags.
Whew. Mamma mia, mamma mia.
Mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has the devil put aside for me.
Beelzebub has the devil put inside of me.
I don't think it's inside of you.
Put the devil inside of me.
Is this the Nightman all of a sudden?
I want the devil man inside me.